All righty, guys, welcome to court. We are here live. Let me go ahead and start this. So we're just EDB style. We're a little bit behind the live stream, so we can go fast forward through sidebars and whatnot. We should be getting ready for the hearings. For anyone who's unfamiliar, real quick, here with the Commonwealth in the state of Massachusetts, they begin these every trial with a really unique what should I say? Preamble, welcome. It's a hear ye. So the hear ye's. We're about to hear the hear ye's. Here's the defendant for anyone who's new. Her name's Karen Reed.
Yay. All persons have any business before the Honorable Beverly Canoni, Justice of the Norfolk Superior Court, and for the County of Norfolk. Draw near, give your attendance, and shall be heard.
Norfolk.
God save the Commonwealth of Massachusetts. Court is now open. You may be seated.
As I say every day, even God.
117, the Commonwealth versus Karen Reed. Can I have counsel identify themselves for the record?
Adam Lally for the Commonwealth. Good morning, Your
Go
Honor.
past this.
Good morning, Your Honor. Laura McLaughlin. Good
morning, Mr. Jackson.
Your Honor, David Unetti for Karen Reed.
Good morning, Mr. Unetti. Good
Counsel.
morning. Make sure that the air conditioning was working. They were
Talking
here
to the
late.
jury about the air conditioning.
Discussing this case with anyone since we left yesterday.
Okay, hang on. Let me
All
go
right,
forward.
we have Ms. Reed, Ms. McCabe, please.
All right, here we go. They're calling Miss Jen McCabe back to the stand to resume cross-examination from yesterday. On cross is right here where my mouse is. Oh, well, it was there. Defense counsel for Karen Reed, Alan Jackson, will be finishing or resuming cross-examination.
The court and jury in the case can reveal the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God.
I did.
That's a fucking lie. Sorry. There will be cursing. For anyone who's curse sensitive, I'm sorry. I apologize in advance. There's no way around it. No way around that.
All right, Mr. Jackson, whenever you were ready.
Thank you, Your Honor. Ms. McCabe, as a matter of housekeeping, I wanted to show you a quick set of documents that you saw yesterday, but I just want to make sure that we're talking about the same thing.
Oh, boy.
Sure.
Shout out to anyone who was with us for the pre-trial pre-green. That was a lot of fun. Great way to start today. Great way to get ready for this.
Can you just take a look at that and tell me if that appears to be the same set of documents that we talked about yesterday that included the group chats, for lack of a better phrase?
Yes.
Okay. May I approach, Your Honor?
Yes.
I don't mean to rush you.
That's okay.
Your Honor, with the court's permission, I would ask that this set of group chats that have been authenticated be moved, marked and moved into evidence.
Is there any objection?
No, Your Honor.
I'm going to put it on like 1.25.
Yes. Exhibit 98 from what? Does that cover more than what you covered yesterday?
Exact same document, I just failed to do it yesterday, my fault.
All right. So is there still more? I'm just curious if my form's different then.
The words should be the exact same.
Why don't I take a look at the exhibit?
All right, let's go forward. Yeah. So this is common. They have these. Part of the problem is like the system of how they were going to be numbering and entering things into entering these exhibits into evidence. They had a whole system, and then apparently that changed at some point during the trial. So that's what has caused some delays here with this. They've had to go through and renumber everything. Let's go forward. That's all the space that you see right here. That's the only space available to the public. Like, what is that? 10 people or something? That's it. That's all the only seats that they have in this courtroom because it's so small.
A bit, but this is, again, before you can consider any electronic communication in your deliberations, you must first find that it's more likely true than not that the person who authored or sent these messages was in fact the person
like 6
identified
minutes
as
behind the
doing
live
so.
stream.
If you do not find that it's more likely true than not that the person who was identified as doing so was the person who authored or sent or transmitted the electronic communication.
Your planner girl, thank you for reminding me. So we had started a tradition a couple days ago, 2 days ago, where every time there's a new witness finding something to compliment about them. I think it's just a good practice in general for humanity. And I appreciate you, Super Planner Girl, for reminding me and by starting off with a compliment. Wonderful. I will compliment how she seemingly matched her blazer to the podium surroundings. Well said, because it's going to be tough to find compliments about her, but we will try. And I really appreciate that. So well said. She is quite matched to her surroundings.
Then you may not consider that electronic communication in your deliberations. So, all right, Mr. Jackson, go right ahead.
Thank you, Your Honor. Ms. McCabe, you'll recall yesterday we talked about the 12
Hi, Thunder.
times in your grand
Happy to
jury
see you
transcript
again.
that you talked about
Woo.
statements that you attributed
go.
to my client. You remember that conversation?
Yes.
And in those dozen
Oh, boy.
times, you never used the word or the words or the phrase, I hit him, correct?
Oh my God.
Correct.
And your explanation for that was, well, I wasn't asked that specific question, correct?
Correct.
Do it.
You were, in fact, on January 29th, let me rephrase that just a little bit. You did, in fact, on January 29th, seek to ask an officer to come back to 34 Fairview for the
Yes.
specific
Yes.
purpose of telling that officer something that you thought was important, correct?
Correct.
Which officer was that?
Michael Lank.
And about what time did you ask Officer Lank to join you back at 34 Fairview?
I'm not sure. I know it was in the AM. I'm just not sure what time exactly.
Somewhere around 9 a.m.
Doesn't she
Does that
sound like your
about right?
husband, guys?
Possibly.
Okay, so this
Insane.
literally we're talking about just a couple of hours after the incident in question.
Correct.
Okay. Sergeant Lank
Again, the
came
incident
with
technically is
Sergeant
murder.
Gallagher,
That's
I
what the
believe,
defendant's charged
correct?
with.
Correct.
But so far,
came
there's no
back to the
evidence of murder,
location at
so
34 Fairview and
incidents
gave you an opportunity
more
to
accurate.
provide whatever information you deemed relevant at that time to impart to him, correct?
Correct.
And isn't it true that at that time you didn't tell Sergeant Lank that my client said I hit him? What you said was that my client said, I hope I didn't hit him, correct?
No.
May I approach, Your Honor?
Yes.
So they always approach formally like this in this trial.
That report, just the face page, and tell me if that appears to be an incident report associated with this case. I know you didn't draft it, but you recognize that that's an incident report from the police, Canton Police specifically.
Yes.
Could you turn to the tab that's the little light blue tab, maybe 3 pages from the end of that report?
Yes.
I'd like you to read that paragraph to yourself if you wouldn't mind, please.
Are you done? Are you reading? What are we doing? Correct. This is EDB's call. Yep. Alan Jackson. Yep. He's one of Karen's defense attorneys. Both him and Yannetti are phenomenal. Really.
Do you have that in mind?
I do. Yes.
Okay, may I approach, Your Honor?
Yes.
Thank you. What you read just now appears to be a report of the incident in which Sergeant Lank came back to 34 Fairview to give you an opportunity to tell him whatever it was that you thought was important, correct?
Was that a full report or is that just an excerpt from it?
Well-
that paragraph?
Oh my God.
That right there is a full report of that incident of Sergeant Lank going back to 34 Fairview. Would you agree?
Well, that's not a full report of what I said, but if that's his full report, it's his full report.
Okay. And in this report,
Mhm.
what he writes that you said to him,
Objection.
The objection sustained.
isn't it true that what you actually told Sergeant Lank
Oh, I can't
when
pin this.
he
Oh, well.
returned is that while driving around with her and Roberts
Correct, Bender.
looking
Correct.
for the victim,
Yes.
Miss Reed said something to the effect of, quote, I hope I didn't hit him, end quote. Isn't that what you told him?
Yes, because she said that when we were driving around.
And then you went on to say
Mhm.
that, quote, she, Karen Reed, made these statements again at the scene when the victim was discovered, correct?
Correct.
And then you went on to say, she, Karen Reed, that you thought that Reed may have made these same statements in front of a police officer, but she was not sure, meaning you were not sure, correct?
I was not sure if she made what the police officers may have heard. That report is his recollection. My recollection is I told him that she said, I hit him, I hit him, I hit him. And I told him that he should ask responders if they heard that, because it was a great possibility that they heard it as
Great.
well.
Possibility.
None of that, you'll agree, you just read the report. None of that is in his report.
That's a very brief report.
I
Oh,
didn't
for
ask
fuck's
you if
sake.
it was brief.
For fuck's
I
sake.
asked you if it was in it, correct?
Correct.
And that's a report of a conversation that he had at 34 Fairview with you for the specific purpose of memorializing what you told him.
Right.
Correct?
Correct.
And what you told him, according to Sergeant Lank, is she said one phrase, "I hope I didn't hit him." Correct?
That's what's in the report.
All right. And again, this was 2.5, 3 hours after
Wow.
the incident, not 2.5 years later, correct?
Correct.
At least she's not
Ms.
trying to.
McCabe, we talked yesterday about this unrecorded
Yeah.
meeting that you had
Oh,
in
God.
front of Sergeant Lank's home on January 30th. Do you remember that conversation?
I remember the conversation. Yes.
Fender, that's what a lot of the witnesses that are involved, potentially involved in this death, that have been testifying for the Commonwealth, that's what they've been saying with these reports. Now, having said that, the people who wrote these reports also seem to be involved in terms of not doing things correctly, as we know, not doing a real investigation, blah, blah. So like, but if anything, what we have like probably watered down, doctored, whatever, police reports, or just ones that weren't thorough, right? Where they interviewed them with other witnesses present, shit like that, right? Where it's just like, but even they include these statements, and these witnesses are all saying, yeah, the report's wrong. So
Have you had any other home visits with any other police officers involved in this case?
I went to drop off. It was not a visit. It was myself with Carrie Roberts dropping her daughter off. There was no involvement of Mike Lank on this day.
Have you been to the home, the personal residence of any other police officer involved in this case? Ever?
Yes.
Tell me who?
Kevin Albert.
Who else?
oh my God, that's normal.
I went to Elizabeth Proctor, the wife of Michael Proctor's house.
It's just
Who does
a
Elizabeth
lot.
Proctor live with?
Michael Proctor.
So you actually went to Michael
The
Proctor's
lead
personal
detective in
residence.
this case.
I did, yes.
That was in September of what year?
23. I went over.
2023.
Yes.
Why'd you go to Michael Proctor's house in September of 2023?
I met Elizabeth Proctor in approximately July or August of 2023. We are two mothers that are being viciously terrorized and harassed by social media. Things that were stated in this courtroom and allegations that were made have torn our lives upside down. We receive hate letters saying that they
I'm
hope
asking you
things.
why? I know you want to give a narrative.
She gets to answer
Accurate,
this.
Fender.
Mr. Jackson, the door's open.
Your Honor, if she could answer the question why she went to the house as opposed to the narrative behind her motivation.
Good point.
It sounds to me like she's explaining why she went to the house. The door was open, Mr. Jackson.
Go ahead.
We receive letters, we receive emails, we receive calls, people drive by our house. There was
Back to the harassment. So when in doubt, they all do this thing about they play the victim. It's so sick. None of them have shown, and despite the fact that they all claim to be friends with the victim here, who's a fellow law enforcement officer, by the way, they don't ever show any real sympathy, grief, concern, or anything about him. However, they do feel like themselves, like they've been victimized because of this, so-called harassment. That's what she's speaking to here.
rolling rally outside of my house where people just screamed at us. They take pictures of our children. They took a picture of my daughter and put semen on it and said property of some named blogger.
Okay, so what just happened there with that exchange between Jack? Let's rewind it and listen. Between Alan Jackson and the judge, he was trying to prevent her from answering the question in this manner and going into this, and she told him. So in other words, the prosecution wouldn't object because this is the same testimony they've been trying to elicit, So the defense isn't, you're typically not going to object to your own question, only very rarely. I think we did see it once though in the Depp Heard trial, but He tried to stop her from answering in this manner or with this information. And the judge, let's just hear it again so that we can be clear on it.
Opposed to the narrative behind
The narrative,
her motivation.
the narrative.
It sounds to me like she's explaining why she went to the house.
There
The
we
door
go.
was open, Mr. Jackson.
Go ahead.
Okay, that's
We
fine.
receive letters, we receive emails, we receive calls. People drive by our house. There was a rolling rally outside of my house where people just screamed at us. They take pictures of our children. They took a picture of my daughter and put semen on it and said property of a so.
So no one, what happened was initially Karen was not considered a suspect, like right upon, like at the initial, I'll get that where I paused it. When John O'Keefe initially was dead, it wasn't until a couple days later when these witnesses and like first responders and stuff started changing their statements to say things like Karen had initially said, like we just heard at the beginning of this, like, oh, did I hit him? To where it started changing to, they heard her say, I hit him, like a confession. And after that came out, so in other words, it's my understanding that what prompted them to even arrest her or even consider her as a suspect came from this lady who's on the stand right now. And so that's why it's really impeaching her is of utmost importance, but is easily done.
Some named blogger that I think the defense is very familiar with. So
Right, I
that is
agree.
why myself and Elizabeth Proctor got together. Michael Proctor was not home. We are two mothers trying to get through the unthinkable together.
So you were upset about the public outrage concerning your family's involvement in the death of John O'Keefe.
I was outraged because I am a state witness that is being tortured because of lies.
Torture,
Because
I
of
don't know.
public outrage concerning your family's involvement in the death of a police officer, correct?
No, it's a social media witch hunt.
I see.
Ooh,
So you decided that the
Trumpism.
best way for you to address that
That's interesting.
angst that you were feeling is to go to the lead investigator's home, personal
Bender?
home.
You are exactly correct. Well done. Correct. So it was initially manslaughter and then it was upgraded to second-degree murder. And so you're exactly right about that charge. Well done. So they have to prove that there was some sort of precipitating event, like it could be a jealous rage or something like that. However, even from all of these witnesses from the freaking Commonwealth that we've heard one after another, they are all hanging out together at the waterfall bar. They parked their cars at the bar. And then afterwards, they went back to this house where, the Albert home, which is where the body was found. Karen and John never come inside, right? That we know of. Karen definitely. John, we don't really know yet because his body was found there. And it's all iffy after that. But all the testimony from everybody who was hanging out with them at the bars prior to the evening, at the house rather, like after the bar, it was like a bar after party situation. All of them said the same thing, that no one was overly intoxicated and that Karen and John seemed lovey-dovey. And in fact, one couple testified that they were like, she said to her husband, like, I wish you'd be like that lovey-dovey with me or something like that. No one saw any fighting. So literally any opportunity where they could be trying to give some sort of motive, like there was an argument or whatever to again, in relation to the charges, that's not been established at all. All we have is they had a good relationship, except there was like a minor disagreement over the fact that Karen was potentially spoiling his niece and nephew by buying her a nice sweater or something like that. Which, I mean, okay, like that's almost laughable, right? And we know that those two children had been through the most traumatic events possible, losing their mother and father back to back, and treating them, you know what I mean? Like that's the extent of what we know, that there was any type of, I wouldn't even call that friction, really. I mean, to me, it sounds like something you would say is a joke, but whatever, that's just me. So the kids, as far as we know, are doing, yeah. And I don't recall, does anyone remember who they're living with now? Because, their caretaker, John O'Keefe, then died, murder. So but I think they're doing pretty well. And I think they're like 11 and 13 now, if I recall, something like that. Yeah, I know. It's really, but they haven't established a theory of the case. The prosecution, the Commonwealth has not. A great point. Yes, correct. And that is the only thing they have established, is that it was snowing. Not that means anything, but that it was snowing. It was actually the running joke of the trial, because the judge kept saying, okay, Mr. Lawley, move it along. We know it was snowing. But yeah, they do need sweaters. Great point.
In this case, correct?
I went to visit Elizabeth Proctor.
So
Michael
just-
Proctor was not home.
So just like
Hi, Candace. Happy to see
when
you.
you went to when you went to Sergeant Lank's house, and
Okay,
the only
thank you,
person
Super
you
Planner
met
Girl.
with was
Thank
his
you.
wife.
I know you guys
When
will
you
always remember
went to
stuff.
Michael Proctor's house, your claim is the only
The power
person
is
you met with
combined.
was his wife.
I personally did not go to Mike Lanks. It was not Jen going to Michael Lanks. It was Carrie Roberts dropping her daughter off, and I happened to be in the car with her. Elizabeth Proctor, I met with because we couldn't take the torture any longer.
And you were later asked about this unrecorded visit at Trooper Proctor's home by Massachusetts State Police, correct?
Can you remind me?
Sure. Did you have a conversation with a trooper by the name of Tully, who interviewed you specifically about your contact with Michael Proctor?
Correct. Thank you. Yeah, you're right.
Could I see the report to refresh my memory?
Do you not remember having a conversation with Trooper Tully?
I've had many conversations over the last 2 years.
Trooper Tully?
Over the last 2 years with a number of troopers.
Okay. Do you, all I'm asking you is, do you, and I've got a report that can refresh your recollection. I want to know, first of all, do you remember having a conversation about your relationship with Michael and Elizabeth Proctor with Trooper Tully?
I know I had a conversation with a trooper about it. I don't remember exactly which trooper.
Fair enough. May I approach?
Yes.
Here we go. Approach time. While they're approaching.
Thank you.
Take a look at the face page of that, read it to yourself. And then I'd ask you to turn to the tabbed page, to paragraph 27.
Yes. And Trooper Michael Proctor was the lead investigator on this case. And according to the defense opening statements, he took Karen's phone without a search warrant or a subpoena or anything, and then proceeded to search for nude photos, and then texted somebody else who's also law enforcement to say he was disappointed to not find any nude photos. That happened in the defense opening statement.
Okay.
He's not taken the stand yet, but he will.
You have that in mind?
Yes.
May I approach, Your Honor?
Yes.
Thank you. Does that refresh your recollection, Ms. McCabe, that you had a conversation or an interview, formal interview, with Trooper Tully about your relationship with Elizabeth and Michael Proctor?
Yes.
And you told, actually, let me back up for a second. Okay, was that somewhere in the vicinity of September, late September, early October, when you had that conversation?
Is there a date on it?
May I approach, Your Honor?
Yes.
There's a date stamp on the bottom. Take a look at that date stamp on the bottom and tell me if that refreshes your recollection of about the time that that conversation would have taken place.
Well, the date stamp on the bottom is when it was, I'm assuming, entered into evidence,
Right.
but that doesn't say when the interview itself was.
Right, so if you'll agree with me, you know that you had the meeting.
Yeah, I
with
know, right?
Elizabeth- I'm sorry, at Elizabeth and Michael Proctor's home sometime in September 2023, correct?
Correct.
If that's dated
Kendra, I can change it if you don't like
October
it.
of
Let me
2023,
know.
that's what I'm trying to get to. I don't know the date because it's not dated.
So I don't either.
So
Oh, it's
do you
not
think
showing
it
the
was
flags.
between
That's
September and
unfortunate.
October?
Hold on. let me
It must have been.
edit that.
Had to have been, right?
Correct.
Okay, thank you.
Weird. Why is it not showing the flags?
Before I get to that, I've got a couple of other questions. You had at some point multiple phone calls with Michael Proctor after January 29th, 2022, correct?
I believe so.
Okay. Do you remember all the phone calls that you had with him?
No, I don't.
Would it refresh your recollection to take a look at a log of your phone calls?
Yes, that'd be great. Thank you.
May I approach?
Yes.
Oh, yeah. I guess it doesn't usually show flags. That's a bummer.
Is this what was marked 00 or
It's
00
not.
this morning?
That will be next.
Okay.
This is just a full.
No flags.
Ones that are tabbed, highlighted.
Thank you.
Take a look at that and tell me if you specifically, there's a lot of calls there. There are blue tabs.
Yeah, I
You can look at
accidentally
those
did
blue
Ireland.
tabs and tell
Sorry,
me when
but
you
the flag didn't
take a
show up
look at
anyway.
those.
So let me try this again. It's because I also we have a friend from Ireland who's often here, and so I accidentally selected that flag from like some emojis. But yeah, it doesn't show any of those flags. So there we go. Yeah, I don't know why it doesn't show the flag emojis. I don't know if that's StreamYard. I think on YouTube it shows, so I don't know. Okay, let's go forward while she's reading.
Okay. Yes.
Oh, okay, cool. You can see it in the chat.
Yes.
Approach to get the documents, and now let's ask her
You're
some
welcome.
questions. And we'll see what happens.
Having looked at this set of records, does this appear to be an accurate reflection of
I'm
the
glad
phone
you love
calls that you shared with Michael Proctor at some point on and after January 29th?
Yes.
Just to summarize those, and I don't want to belabor this, but there was a call on the 29th at 10:55 a.m. with Trooper Proctor, correct?
Correct.
There was a call on the 29th at 12:49 p.m., correct?
I didn't memorize them.
I understand. Would you?
So if you want to give me the paper back, then I could probably answer correctly.
You want to
Okay.
do it that way, we certainly can. May I?
Yes.
She's been doing this since yesterday. She just, and
Thank
again,
you.
her husband did the same thing. They really seem to try to take up time and procrastinating by reading. Like, as you guys likely remember, for those who saw, her husband does the whole thing
Okay.
with the phone.
First call,
Flashlight.
January 29th, 10:55 a.m.
Yeah, I know.
Trooper Proctor calls you for 1 minute and 17 seconds.
Correct.
Next tab, January 29th, 12:49 p.m. Trooper Proctor calls you for 1 minute and 8 seconds.
Correct.
January 30th at 9:51 a.m.
This is what he wanted to get to. So I think here's the thing. She's making it difficult for, like, he wanted to get to the point with how many phone calls between her and Trooper Proctor, the lead detective in the case, who also, as we know, there's going to be a lot to come on him. Because when they did the opening statements, the vast majority of stuff they were talking about was the stuff he did. And it's like so crazy because there's so much shit in this case that we haven't even gotten to him yet in terms of testimony. But I think that he wanted to get to this, and she's making it difficult. You know, oh, I didn't read the whole thing, whatnot, like all this back and forth with her reading. But this is the part he needed to get to.
You called Trooper Proctor.
He needed the foundation, right? He needed to lay the foundation.
Voicemail or something.
Correct.
January 30th, a minute later, 9:52 a.m., you then call Trooper Proctor again, 21 minutes and 31 seconds for that call.
Correct.
January 30th, same day, 4:45 p.m., Trooper Proctor calls you, 9 minutes and 43 seconds.
Correct.
January 31st, the next day, at 11:51 a.m., you call Trooper Proctor for 2 minutes and 53 seconds.
Correct.
That is the sum of those call logs, correct?
Correct.
Can I approach?
Yes.
Those aren't all the calls that you had with Trooper Proctor. That didn't stop. It's just where these logs stop, correct?
I'd have to see my further call logs.
Do you believe that you've had additional phone calls with Trooper Proctor after that last call on the 31st?
I know I did in 2023.
Okay. In 2022, did you have additional phone calls with him?
I'm not sure. I'd have to look at phone records.
There we go. See, here's what I think is happening here. I mean, I understand. Okay, a couple things. I understand that people don't have things memorized. That makes sense, right? However, we already know from yesterday, she's not only did she review her testimony and documents prior to this particular trial, we also know that she's already testified, remember, in some crazy number of grand jury proceedings. I think it was 7 or something. And so between that, and then we know that there was a lot of witness prep, and they are also, prepping each other for the most part. I mean, right, their stories all match, within the factions within the large group, I would say, like her and her husband, everything matches with even the same phrasing. anyway, my point is this. Yes, while I understand, okay, there's one can say, yeah, it's reasonable with certain things. You're not going to remember this, remember that. However, we know and the jury, more importantly, the jury knows that she's testified a lot before already. The jury knows she's prepped. The jury knows she reviewed all her shit beforehand. And the jury has, more importantly, perhaps seen since all day yesterday and all day today so far that she has done this with everything. So it's really, in my opinion, a delay tactic more so than she really needs the information, in my opinion, because of the fact that she's doing this with everything. I think her goal is to make this slow, laborious, so that the jury loses focus, and because he wants to get to the point, right? The point of the number of phone calls. And it's unfortunate that it's not just quick and easy because it loses the impact. When he asks the question, how many phone calls? And you can't just say, oh yeah, 405 or whatever, I'm just making up a number. But then it's like, okay, now there's minutes go by trying to get to the foundation. And then she's like, well, I didn't see that part. Let me see it again. All this. And then he can get to the phone calls. But by that point, it's lost impact. I think that's her goal. Both her and other witnesses we've seen on the stand have been very strategic. They're trying to play, and we saw this from her yesterday. She doesn't even really hide the fact that she's trying to play the defense attorney and come out smarter. She's trying to outsmart him. And so we're just seeing, I think we're seeing more of that. And again, having more experience, having testified already before, you as a witness, you learn the tactics, right? We see it with expert witnesses all the time. When you see an expert witness testify versus just a lay witness, their demeanor on the stand is completely different because expert witnesses understand what's going on. But if you have a lay witness who's already testified a number of times and really should have been considered as a possible suspect in the case, which is what we have going on here, then and also someone who just maybe their personality thinks they're smart, what have you, we already know she wants to control events because she tried to control everybody else at the scene. So what you have is someone who's really more akin to an expert in the sense that figuring out the strategy and all this and trying to kind of not just answering questions, right? That's not what's happening here at all. So I think that with what's going on with these documents, I think that's what's going on. But that's that's my personal opinion. Yeah. Oh yeah. She's angry. Yeah. Yep. That's right. Yes, I agree. Making it difficult intentionally. For sure. I agree.
Yes.
I agree.
Maybe quickly.
See, because every time she asks for this stuff, they have to approach again, and see now they're going. Let me go forward in a different manner to go, because sometimes these things take a while. Let's just see. It's easy because they always cut the sound back on, so you hear the courtroom sound, like the ambient noise, and then they're coming back. So, and they'll sometimes these are long here, even just with these documents. And I think some of this might be again just because they had to change their numbering system. Okay, here we go.
Thank you, Tori.
So sometimes that causes a delay, but other times it could be other things like foundation, objections.
May I inquire?
Yes.
Thank you. Ms. McCabe, I don't have the records in front of me. Maybe they'll be found before the end of our conversation.
Okay.
But in the meantime,
they have to find it. Okay.
Do you remember a call on February 14th with Trooper Proctor lasting about 17 minutes?
I don't know.
Do you remember a call on February 17th lasting about 2 minutes?
I don't know.
Do you remember a call on February 28th lasting about 2 minutes?
I don't recall. Again, it's hard.
I expect that your answer is going to be, I don't recall, but I want to make a record. So I'm not a test of your memory at this point. I don't expect you to have it memorized. I just want to ask if maybe.
That's brilliant. I'm glad he said that for a number of reasons. One, the jury. So the jury understands that that's his purpose. He's making a record. It's not to get her answer. Two, that makes her look really bad. Three, that means that there's a plan later. Because what's going to happen, and we've seen him do this before, they've been very strategic. What's going to happen is she's going to answer these the same way. Each one he's going to make a record. And then my guess would be there's going to be something coming up where she's going to want to answer it differently for some reason to benefit her, and she's going to be fucked. So this is great. This, in my mind, she knows it. He's psyching her out as well with this. This serves a lot of purposes, I think. And there's something else I was going to say about it. Yeah. So I was actually thinking to myself before he said why he's doing it this way, I was actually thinking to myself, could he just skip going through all these individual calls and be like, why were you talking so much, and get to the but he might ask that, but he's now saying that there's a reason. And I'm glad he said so.
One of these stand out in your mind, or all of them? What about a second call on February 28th, lasting about a minute?
Don't recall.
On March 1st, another call with Trooper Proctor lasting about a minute.
I do not recall.
Apparently a second call on March 1st, lasting about 2 minutes and a few seconds.
I don't recall.
On March 11th, another call in the afternoon, lasting about 12 minutes.
I don't recall.
And finally, a
She has to
call
say it a
toward the
bunch
end
of
of March,
times.
March 29th.
That's great. That's good stuff.
Lasting about 4 minutes.
Again, I don't recall.
Okay. Understood that this is not a memory test, and I don't have the records in front of me, so I apologize about that. Based on the
Handling this well,
conversation
they
that
don't
we
have the
just
record.
had, does that jog your memory that you had multiple calls?
That's
in
what I was just saying.
February and March.
To get to the
with
heart of
Trooper
why would they
Proctor,
be talking
as
so much?
well as the calls we've
Even if
gone
you don't
over
remember.
with the records
Yeah.
in
Yeah.
January.
Yep.
To be honest, I had calls with many people. I was in a
Because of
state of
course
shock for months following this.
Shut up.
So if you
Sorry.
have the record, I can.
I will just say that when I was listening to her testimony on the cross yesterday, and I was watching it I had it on the TV. I don't ever, it's so funny. She has elicited in me certain words I don't ever use typically. And so I'm going to try to refrain. But there were a lot of curse words coming out of my mouth automatically yesterday as she was testifying at certain points. And like right now is one of those moments where I just stopped myself because this is bullshit. And that's not the one I was going to censor. But let me just say, Trooper Proctor being the lead investigator in this case, right? Yes, everyone else involved is family. That's fine. They're friends. However, Trooper Proctor has a different role for everybody in this case. He might also be friends. He might also be family, but he's also the lead investigator. And she knows that this is bullshit. That's my opinion. She knows this is bullshit. So trying to act like, and this is exactly why he's asking, because what's she going to say? So she's like, I just talking to everybody so much. In her mind, she would have a different relation to talking to him. And we know, she knows why she was talking to him. Okay, I'm going to keep playing it. Sorry.
Are off of that. But besides that,
Right.
just reading them to me does not jog my memory. I'm sorry.
That's okay.
He says he can't find the records.
With the idea, I don't want to hold you to a number. You wouldn't quarrel with the idea that you had multiple calls with Trooper Proctor in January, in February, in March, correct?
Well, the ones I've just saw on the record.
Right. The records don't matter because he's even with the records he's shown her, she's like, I don't recall. So even having the records is really just to put her answer on the record, right? But she's just going to say she doesn't remember the calls at all. And then when it comes to why there were so many, she's like, well, I was talking to everybody. So yeah.
Good. Yes, there were multiple calls there.
And of course, you met him in your home on January 29th.
Yes, I did.
And he came into your living room. You had a conversation with him.
In my dining room, yes.
I'm sorry, your dining room.
Mm-hmm.
And also, Carrie Roberts was there.
Carrie Roberts was not there.
On the 29th?
Carrie Roberts was not at my house on the 29th. No.
When was she at your house?
Where's the weasel?
I believe that was the Tuesday, whatever the date was.
Maybe first? That sound right? First or second?
Yeah, something. It was the Tuesday following.
Okay. And was that with Trooper Proctor or a different trooper?
A different trooper.
And with Trooper Proctor on the 29th, when
Why
he
is
was
Nightbot not
interviewing you
responding
in
to
your
my command?
dining room,
Nightbot!
that was the day that Brian Albert was also there.
Correct.
And was Brian Albert also interviewed on that day?
I believe so.
So Trooper Proctor was in your house for, gosh, it had to have been an hour.
I'm not sure. After I interviewed, I went upstairs and then my children started waking up and I was tied upstairs for a while. I'm not sure
I
when
agree, Fender.
or how long he was
evasive.
there.
But
It's
your memory
evasive.
is clear that not only did you meet Trooper Proctor on that day, you had a full conversation with him. It was in your house. That was in your dining room. And another witness was interviewed by Trooper Proctor in your home as well.
Correct.
And then you had multiple conversations with him in January on that day, the day after, and the day after that. You've already seen those records, correct?
Yes, correct.
Then in either September or October, you were interviewed by Lieutenant Tully. That's the report that you've already seen.
Correct.
And in that interview, you were asked specifically, whether or not you had a relationship with Trooper Proctor and when that relationship started, correct?
Correct.
And you said, quote, you had never met Elizabeth Proctor or Michael Proctor prior to September 2023, correct?
I did not say that.
So yet again, this is another example of a trooper completely getting it wrong. Is that right?
Objection.
Sustained, ask it differently.
Argumentative.
Did,
That's
in
why.
your view, did Lieutenant Tully get your statement?
That's a good question, Fender. So I've actually talked about that. I know you haven't been there, but I've addressed that a couple different times, specifically at specific moments on the other recaps that I've done, and also on my other live coverage that I did. Normally, we know they're never going to take the stand, pretty much, or they're going to be advised not to. In this case, I think it might be different, and here's why. There's specific moments, and I've tried to point those out at the time. There's specific moments where there's facts that are in question that really only she or John could answer, and of course he can't. Like, that are really important. And apart from her testifying, there's really no way to get them in. And then you've got all these other people who are lying and have every reason, they've really tried to make it, again, the defense's theory of the case is that they framed her, right? So whether, and then is it how much of the level is it like framed? Is it like, or is it just like a cover up, whatever? But still, they're all saying certain things, and there's events that only she can really testify to. So I actually, in this case, just because this is really unique, and the jury at this point too is really, the presumption of innocence is taking on a whole different level here with this trial. It should always be there, as we know, but like, really, I think that she would be in a really good position. And I just think it's a different set of circumstances where the risks, I think, probably won't be there, but there's only going to, like, risk versus reward, So it'll be interesting to see. It'll be interesting to see if that happens. So good question.
Wrong that you had never met Trooper Proctor before September of 2023.
Objection.
Is that true or is
I
that
know.
wrong?
Lieutenant Tully knew I met Proctor prior to that because Proctor was the one who did the initial interview on January 29th.
Does it make you wonder why he wrote in his statement, quote,
Objection,
"You've
Your
never
Honor.
met Elizabeth
Most your lollies
Proctor or
die
Michael
before he
Proctor
objects."
prior to September 2020.
And I love it when they just
So the objection sustained.
they keep talking. It's great.
If you indicated that you had never met Trooper Proctor before September of 2023, that would be a false statement, correct?
Objection.
You
No.
can answer that, Ms. McCabe.
Yeah, good.
I met Proctor January 29th. It's
It's a false
everywhere.
statement. If you said it, would it have been false? That's all I'm asking.
Yes.
Get her. Get her.
On January 29th,
It's heating up in
in the
there.
early morning hours, I want to take you all the way back to
Oh boy.
1:30, 1:45 a.m. when you left 34 Fairview on the 29th.
There's a text that she
Where
knows.
did,
is
after you
coming.
dropped off the girls, where did you
This is,
and Matt McCabe go?
We came
I'm
home.
going to just say this for anyone who isn't, because everyone that's been following this is privy to this information. And for anyone who's not following it isn't privy to it, but it's important to know. So there's a text message that she knows is going to come up very positive. She's waiting for it. And he's on purpose, probably saving it for last. But you have to imagine the anxiety that she has. And she deserves it because she did this Google search at like 2:30 or something in the morning, which was likely just after John O'Keefe died and she was present. She did this Google search for like how long to die in the cold or something like that. And of course he was found out in the snow in the front yard. So she knows that is coming and she doesn't know when. It's brilliant. It's amazing. And she did it to herself. Shout out to Radiohead. Do it to yourself.
After you got home,
For sure, Candace, for sure.
you
I know,
indicated
right?
that you went upstairs, correct?
Correct.
After you went upstairs, you indicated that you got on the phone.
Correct.
On your cell phone, correct? After you got on your cell phone, you indicated that you started searching for stuff.
Correct.
Oh my God,
So
oh my
if
God.
there's
Wow, did I-
GPS, you've seen the forensic extraction or part of it,
Oh my
correct?
God, you guys. this might be
Which
coming.
one are you referring to?
Oh my God.
The forensic extraction of
Oh
your phone.
my God. Y'all.
I saw what you showed me yesterday from Celebrate.
That's what I mean.
Okay.
From
I'm-
Celebrite, part of it.
I saw, yeah, the phone calls. Yes.
Okay. You're aware that that extraction shows that you got home
Love you.
after 2 a.m. or so. So that would be generally
I'm
correct.
trying to remember. I think
Correct.
this is your command, right?
The Celebrite extraction shows from your Apple Health data that you actually went up a set of stairs. That would be accurate, correct?
Accurate.
I agree,
The
Fender.
Celebrite data shows that you actually logged into your phone.
I agree.
Did a login, either Face ID or a
I thought just
passcode,
being lazy
opened up the phone. That would be accurate.
Correct.
The Celebrite data shows that you were engaging with an app called Safari,
Oh my God, you guys, it's happening.
Google searches.
It's
correct?
happening.
Yes.
That would be generally accurate as well, correct?
Yes.
So
Oh my God, oh my God, oh my God. He's laying the foundation. He's laying the
after you
foundation.
opened up Safari, you indicated that you Google searched something about ozone basketball. Is that right?
Oh my
Yes.
God.
That was sometime after 2 a.m.
He didn't come right out with
Right?
it. This is
Yes.
amazing. Excruciating. I love it.
What was so important about ozone basketball at 2 a.m. that it couldn't wait until
What
the
the hell is
morning?
that?
Why did you search it then?
What the hell is that?
Well, first I was home. I was wide awake, and I had
Yeah, I
been
agree.
texting about a basketball chat, and basketball was clearly on my mind. My daughter had been invited to join a team. I didn't know much about the team, so I just was like Googling to see, because the woman who had given my daughter the offer had wanted an answer.
Interesting.
So you say that basketball was on your mind,
Okay.
correct?
Yes.
Is there
Ah,
anything else on your mind in that early morning hour time
I'm gonna
frame?
die. I'm gonna die. I'm gonna die. I'm gonna die.
Don't
Oh,
believe so.
Ms.
Do
McCabe,
it.
if you wanted to know
oh my God. Oh my God. Oh my God.
in
oh my God,
general
Oh my God. Oh my God.
how long it takes for a human being
I'm
to
crazy.
pass away because of exposure to extreme
My
temperatures, right?
God.
If you wanted to know the answer to that,
Eureka.
what would you Google search? What phrase would you use?
Oh my God. I can't. This is brilliant. Well done. All
I'm not sure. All I recall is what the defendant asked me to Google in the morning.
right. That's what
If you wanted to
Oh my
know,
God.
I'm asking a different question.
Mhm.
If you personally wanted to know, how long does it take for a person to
He's building
die of
this up
exposure due
in a
to
way she
extreme
can't.
temperatures? What would you put in? What
Let me
phrase?
just say, guys, this is the crux of all of this. And he is going to build, he's smart. She's trying to outsmart him. He's going to do this in a way, and it's going to be, I can't wait to see it unfold. He's going to do this in a way that she cannot weasel out of it. Now, remember, her excuse on direct examination, when Lolly asked her about this, was her excuse, by excuse, I mean lie. And by the way, that this testimony that from her that I'm about to talk about happened right after her husband on Friday. So we're really close to that testimony in the recaps. But anyway, she said it was because Karen asked her to Google it. Right? See what I mean? This would be an example of a thing where it's like Karen might need to take the stand, because it's like, oh, well, it's just her word against the other word. Like, Karen asked me to Google it. See, Karen's guilty. It's not me that's guilty. Karen's guilty. Karen asked me to Google it. So he is going to go through this in a way that she cannot get around. It'll be really interesting to see what happens.
Would you use?
Objection.
Sustained.
Well, we don't have to guess at the phrase that you would use if you wanted to know something about dying of hypothermia, do we? Did you actually Google search it?
Objection.
Sustained. Ask that differently, please.
Did you, in
Repetitive,
fact,
that's why.
use a phrase to Google search how long it takes for someone to die of extreme temperatures?
I did in the morning at the request of your client.
Okay.
Shut the fuck up.
And what phrase did you use?
I'm not sure.
Really?
Correct. I was.
After 2.5 years of this, you don't know the phrase that you used?
Objection, Your Honor.
That's not believable.
There's so many lies and
Okay.
misconceptions
There's no-
on social media.
What?
Oh, I apologize.
That's how you're going to handle it? Hold on. Sorry. What? I actually did not expect that answer. That's even worse than, I don't even know. Like, but here's the thing. Again, if this was somebody who wasn't involved and all up in this and hadn't already testified a million times and didn't review the records and all this and wasn't really doing long, like that, yes, for if it was a random late, like, sure, it might be plausible that they don't remember exactly what they searched for. That is not I guarantee you the jury doesn't buy that, because they, at this point, by the time Lolly, the Commonwealth, called her, they've all already heard from so many people just how involved every one of these people who was there that night, like, was And unfortunately, not immediately. That's part of it too, was there was a delay because they weren't really investigated. But once the grand jury started happening, especially with the feds, because of the feds, right? She said it on direct. The feds started investigating. It's like they've got all these prior statements. They've all reviewed their statements. Again, the preparation for these lay witnesses, or even the law enforcement, but are coming in as lay witnesses because they're not there as, working the case. They're in different positions. Like, she knows what she Googled. And it's so funny. Like, that's her excuse, is trying to switch gear, distract it by talking about social media. The jury's not going to buy that. Like, the jury has learned too much now at this point. That's exactly right, Fender. If everyone's wrong but you. Exactly. Right. So she even acknowledged this, because there was a typo in her Google search. She typed HOS versus HOW. And that's right. Thank you, Super Planner Girl. You're right. That's a good point. So during direct, when she was talking about this text, she actually acknowledged the typo, or the whatever, misspelling the typo. So that you're right. That's a great point. That proves the jury, hopefully the jury remembers that. That's a very small detail, but that proves that she knows exactly what she searched for. That's incredible. Right. I know, right? For anyone, I get the sarcasm. It's coming through. Yeah, she's the victim. Exactly. That's what she's doing. She's the victim. Just like Murdoch in the Broke case.
Are you telling me you don't remember what Google search you put in?
Karen was screaming. My hands were shaking. And she was saying, Google hypothermia. How long does it take to die in the cold?
And what phrase did you put in your phone? I'm just asking you to say it.
Why don't you show me it?
You know what it is.
You literally don't remember?
Again, she was screaming, Google hypothermia. How long does it take to die in the cold? And I picked up my phone and I started Googling.
And you literally, to this day, right now, under oath, you're saying you don't remember that phrase that you used.
God.
Objection.
I have to say.
I'll allow it.
Is that what you're saying?
I have to say, I'll rewind that second. I have to say, someone must have told her how she came across on the stand yesterday, because she is controlling her facial expressions a lot better than yesterday. Unless she's just we're not there yet with her. But yesterday, from the very beginning of being on the stand, her face was like, I've never seen anything like it. I think someone told her, and now she's trying harder. That's just my personal opinion. Yeah, I need a screaming go also. Rewinding it just a second.
Or do you not, Ms. McCabe? That's a simple question.
That morning, I don't remember specifically what I Googled, but I do know what you've put out to the social media.
How about this?
Right, I know.
Hoss long to die in cold.
Yeah.
That sound familiar?
Yeah, it's been everywhere.
Why does that sound so familiar?
Because you've put it out in social media.
Well, I haven't put anything out in social media because I don't personally have social media.
I'm sorry, Turtle Boy did.
So if the world happens to know it.
Oh my God, she said the name. The jury does not.
I guess not.
I guess not.
The jury has not heard that name.
Hoss long to die in cold is what you put in to the Google search, right?
If you say so.
I'm
is
so
there
glad.
a reason that you don't want to admit to that?
Absolutely.
I'm sorry. I just have to pause to say, I'm so glad he didn't. She was trying to set him up for a trap. That name, I'm not even going to give. That name is very controversial and that name has not come up in this trial yet in front of the jury. So I think she was trying to distract and derail this, and he completely ignores it. I'm so happy about that. Well done to him for ignoring it. I mean, you could also think of it as like Amber Heard the way she would try to set these little traps, and then Camille finally is like, I'm not going to go down your rabbit holes or whatever. It's a similar thing, but he doesn't even do her the acknowledgement of acknowledging that she said anything. He just ignores it. It's brilliant.
Hoss long to die in cold is what you put in to the Google search, right?
If you say so.
Is there a reason that you don't want to admit to that?
Thank you.
Absolutely not.
It's a simple question.
Thank you so
right?
much.
No reason.
So say it.
Thank you.
What Google search did you use?
Objection.
Sustained.
Yeah. I will just say briefly, I think that whenever they tried, remember how we've already heard her refer to the harassment and all that, try to be the victim. a lot of that I think it has to do with this turtle boy thing. And so all that to say, the only reason I'm mentioning is that if you hear like when she says that name, it's again, she's trying to segue back into this narrative of her being a victim, and which is completely changing the topic from the Google search anyway. So yeah, it is very controversial, but what matters here for our purposes is what her intention was by mentioning it. Her intention by mentioning it is to derail this entire line of questioning into talking about what's been going on, and it would benefit her because A, it would distract from the line of questioning, but B, she can try to play it so it'll look like she's a victim. That's the point.
You were seeking at some point to Google how long to die in the cold, correct?
Correct.
And you made a mistake and mistakenly typed long to die in cold, correct?
If you could show me it, I'd appreciate
You're
it.
joking. Fucking bitch. Sorry. She
You
knows
later
what
Google
she said.
search-
Dude. It's
Mayor Pro
frustrating.
Tem?
Yes.
Frustrating. He has to do it. He has to do it because she asked, and that's why he wanted to keep questioning, and then he's like, "Fucking hell, I have to do it. It sucks, dude. I hate her so much. I hate her so much." You know, her Colin Albert, who's her nephew. How are they? I don't even remember how they're related anymore.
Thank you.
His strategy was
While she looks at that, Mr. Jackson, can we bring our clerk back upstairs?
I'm going to mute it while what is she doing to her face? So with the Colin Albert, you know, it was his strategy was like, they'd be like, oh, well, this refresh your memory. Cause he kept saying, I don't recall. Well, this refresh your memory. He would say yes. And then they would show it to him. And then they would say, did you read over it? And then he would say yes. And then he would say, is your memory fresh? He would say yes. And then he would ask him the same question. And then he would say, I don't recall. And then he's like, well, didn't you just read it? And he's like, no, my memory's not refreshed. And it's a technicality because if they say that, you cannot continue asking the question. So this is, again, it's clear that all of these witnesses have been taught, prepped, and taught the actual nitty gritty strategies anyway.
But I'd like to have this marked as,
But that she knows if she asks that, he has to stop and give her the
Is there an
document.
objection, Mr. Lally?
What is it?
No, Your Honor.
Yeah. Yeah.
may I?
Yes. Is that, Madam Court Reporter? I'm sorry. Thank you.
So anything she said while I had it on mute was likely, they have to do
Move to
it
publish this, Your
normally
Honor.
with every witness. It was probably confirming that the number matched something else. It would have been something along those lines. There's always with every witness, it's each time there's a lot of rigmarole before they can do the documents. Oh my God, we get to see it. Oh, here we go. Yes, we can.
Move to publish this, Your Honor.
Okay.
May I?
Yes.
Was that far enough back? I might need
Is
to back.
that, Madam
I'll
Court
go
Reporter?
further. I'll go
Yes.
further.
But I'd like to have this marked as.
Yeah, foundation. Right. That would be what I would say, but we can look at
Is
it.
there an objection, Mr. Lally?
No, Your Honor.
Yeah, there's a lot of foundation for every one of these that
Jim?
we've seen with every witness. Yeah, okay, I'm gonna go forward a little bit till we
Move
get
to
to the
publish this, Your Honor.
document. Okay, yeah, foundation.
Does this appear to be the document that was just marked as Exhibit 99?
Yes.
I know it's a little bit small, Mr. Jason. You know this. You see this column,
Yes.
third column from the, actually it's the fourth column from the left. One, some dates, some data, and then a Google search, correct?
Correct.
Boy,
What does that Google search say?
House long to die in cold.
oh, and
Well,
it was
You
deleted.
indicate that you did that, you made that search at 6:23
I don't
a.m.,
know if we
correct?
knew it was
Correct.
deleted yet in
And then you
trial.
indicated that you did it again
I don't know if we knew that yet.
thereafter
know
at
that yet.
6:24, correct?
Correct.
But 6:24, you misspelled the phrase and
Oh
you
wow,
spelled
look
it
at how
as
many
follows.
times.
How long
Holy shit.
TI
Oh my
die
God.
in CIKD,
Wow,
correct?
that's a
Correct.
lot of typos. Holy fucking shit. Wow.
Now you claim that
Guys.
those two searches were at 6:23
Oh my God.
and 6:24 a.m. respectively, correct?
Objection.
Phrase it differently.
Sure. You've indicated under direct examination that
There you go.
these two searches were at 6:23 and 6:24 a.m., right?
I don't know if I gave exact times, but I said it was in the morning and Karen had asked me to do it.
And you, exactly, you claimed that you searched it because Karen was screaming at you and yelling at you, Google hypothermia, and you Googled, how long does it take for a person to die? I'm sorry, she said something like, how long does it take for a person to die of hypothermia? And you Google searched it at 6:23 and 6:24. Is that right?
Again, I'm not sure about the exact times. I just did it after
He's got a
Karen
plan,
asked me
guys.
to do it.
Wait
Would
for it.
you
He's got a
roll with
plan.
the idea that those
This
were
is
about
great.
30 seconds apart?
I can't wait to see
Okay.
how he does this.
Um,
Oh my God.
And you're aware, Ms. McCabe, that both spellings, both misspellings of that phrase result in the exact same search results, don't they?
I'm not aware of that, no.
Well, you Googled them, ma'am. You're looking on your phone and you Googled.
That's what I was
How long
actually
to die in
thinking.
cold
I was like, Google's going to
and
know
how
what that
long
means
to
and
die
answer
in
it.
CIKD.
That's what I kept thinking.
Both of those. You Googled them, right?
I did, yes.
And they result in the exact same search results, don't they?
I have no idea.
So my question to you is, why the two searches?
She was standing next to me screaming, shaking my hand. My hand was cold. I was trying to Google it.
Shaking your
Obviously, maybe whatever came up
hand?
first
I thought, hold
didn't
on.
make sense because I had some misspellings.
Guys, correct me if I'm wrong. Didn't she say prior that her hands were shaking, like because she was cold or she was nervous? Now she's saying Karen shook her hand. Am I catching that correctly? I don't remember her saying Karen shook her hand. And I feel like I would have remembered it because that's weird. That's weird. Interesting. I don't know. Let me know what you guys remember.
So I did it again.
So Hoslong to die in cold
Yeah, like
results
Not
in
better.
articles concerning dying of exposure, doesn't it?
We never got the chance to read it.
Well, you're the one, when you say we, who's we?
Karen and myself.
Well, you're the one holding the phone, Mr.
shit
Cage.
like this is
Correct.
what you might need
So
to
you're looking
understand.
down at your phone and you see exactly what comes up.
Otherwise, we
right?
may never
I
know.
don't remember exactly what came up.
Well, what came up was something about dying of hypothermia, didn't it?
That's what she asked.
So why do it again?
It's got to be so hard for Karen to stay silent during all
Why
this.
do it
knowing
again,
they're
Ms.
wrong.
McCabe? You had the result.
Right. Yes, Fender.
Why the second search?
Yes.
I cannot answer that beyond telling you that my hands were frozen. She was shaking me and screaming at me.
And you see the time, let me scroll up, please.
I'm curious where he's going with this, the second search.
According to the Celebrate data,
I guess it's to prove that she wasn't just looking for someone
you
else.
see this first
Right,
search
I
that says
see.
Hoslong to die in cold?
I do.
Hoslong.
What's that
Okay.
time?
Thank you, Super Planner Girl. This is what I was wondering.
You've got the,
Yeah.
it's
Yeah,
right
there
over
it is.
227.
I didn't look. I didn't look because this is so crazy. But my thought, I thought this. I didn't say. I was like, I wonder if these were at completely different times. That's the point. Check it out. 2:30 in the morning and 6:30 in the morning. 2:30 in the morning is before Karen noticed John was missing. It was before Karen, like this. I'll let him explain it. This is insane. Yeah, that's what they do. That's what he. Yeah.
AM or PM?
AM.
Yep. How did she know to search for it
Ms.
then?
McCabe,
This is like Alex Murdoch with the kennels.
you made that search at 2:27 a.m.
Wow.
because you knew that John O'Keefe was outside in your sister's
Oh my
lawn
God.
dying in the cold. didn't
Yes.
you?
Yes.
Absolutely not. I did not make that search at that time. No.
Realized the next morning,
There.
after John was discovered, after 6 a.m., that you had an incriminating search
And that's
on
why
your
she
phone,
deleted only that first
didn't
one.
you?
Absolutely not.
Makes sense.
To cover your tracks,
Yes, to cover
you
her
searched
tracks.
it again
That's
in
what I was
order
gonna
to
say.
overwrite
Yep. Yep.
the original search
Yep.
at 2:27,
Yeah.
correct?
Again, absolutely not.
But you were nervous.
Yep.
And you screwed it up. So
Here's
the
the
first search you made,
Here's the thing. So she did that search at around what, 2:27 a.m. At this point, no one knew anything had happened to him except for the people who were involved. Karen is at home, right? Or John O'Keefe's house. And and so she does that search, she deletes it, and then she freaks out at 6:30 And like I was thinking it as he said it, to cover her tracks, does it a bunch of times. So in case they find it, she can try to pretend like it was because she was doing it for Karen. Wow.
At 6:23.
Yeah, I know, right? Yeah.
Was Hoslong to die in CIKD, wasn't it?
No.
When you see the search right there, correct?
I see the search, but I disagree with your narrative.
And what's the time frame of that search?
6:23.
And you agree that that time frame is accurate, right?
Again, it's what the report says.
And that comports with your memory of that morning, about 6:23 in the morning in 51 seconds.
Correct.
There's a second search, correct?
Correct.
And this one,
Oh my God.
at 6:24, says Hoslong to die in cold. 6:24:16, correct?
Correct.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, 18.
You guys are all correct in the chat.
And that comports with your memory as well.
I remember Googling it at the request of the defendant.
He's getting to the
Yes.
point that she
27
remembers.
seconds apart, correct?
Yes.
Here's where, okay, remember before when he had her put, okay. Remember just before this, I was wondering why he jumped lines of questioning. Let me give you my thoughts on that. Remember how right before this line of questioning, he was doing that line of questioning and asking her about all those phone calls with Trooper Proctor. And it was like, and I was so glad that he was like, I know you're going to say you don't remember. I want to get this on the record. And he had to say over and over again, I don't recall. And he switches gears from there. I'm wondering if it's funny. That might've been a strategy. He says he switches gears because he doesn't have the documents for the rest of the phone records. That might've been a strategy, which would be brilliant. Actually, I bet it was, because then he switches gears to here, right? Because he doesn't have those other documents and they're going to find it or whatever. And I was like, interesting. This is a different line of questioning. It's brilliant because here's the thing. She's just said, I don't recall a billion times in a row on the record, right? The jury heard that. And now she's saying she remembers all these searches that are after 6:30, but she doesn't remember the one at 2:30, right? It's showing the selective memory. I think that's at least part of it. What do you guys think?
But the reality is, your first search didn't comport with the 2:27 a.m. search, did it? It was
Great
a
point,
different
Bender.
spelling, wasn't it?
Great point. Yep.
I never searched to 227. That is not reality.
But the 6:24 search did exactly mirror the search that, according to this report, took place at 2:27, correct?
Yeah.
I'm sure Celebrite will be able to explain it to you. I can't.
And then
Pardon
of
me?
those three
Celebrate
searches,
can't talk, ma'am. Oh my God.
one of them
Celebrate wasn't there.
ended up deleted. Isn't that right?
That's what he wants.
I never deleted any search.
Lies, dude. I'm sorry. Hold on. It is a fool's errand to try to contradict the shit like that. It's a fool's errand. The phone didn't, dude. Everyone knows that when it says deleted like that, it means it was done by the user. We know, we learned more than we ever thought we would know about cell phones when we did the deep dive with Murdoch. We spent a lot of time learning how all this works. And that deleted message is showing from the Celebrate report. That doesn't mean it was overwritten, because if it was overwritten, it just doesn't show up at all. It was deleted by choice. It was an overt action that she took. I can't with this. Oh my God.
Take a look.
Exactly.
At the Celebrate
The
report.
fact that she's trying to refute that is really
Top
insane
search.
to me. That's another level, man.
And the column marked deleted.
It is. That's correct. Yes, it is.
What do you
That's,
see?
It is. It really is.
I see a yes.
I mean, here's the thing. Okay, let me pause it again. Sorry. Even with forensic evidence, like these days, like even with forensic evidence, there is room for a little bit of dispute if you can question the investigation. For example, how fingerprints or DNA was collected, things like that, right? Or in this case, everything was fucked to begin with and then they used red Solo cups. Like, but even with good forensic evidence, like Murdoch, take that again, for example, right? Like, it was overall a really good investigation, but there were just little things here and there that you could kind of pick apart as a defense expert, that kind of thing. Where, yeah, potentially this, there is an element. Okay, let me put it this way. When it comes to collecting forensic evidence from a crime scene, there's room for human error. It doesn't mean it's nefarious, but there's room for it. However, When it comes to the cell phone reports, what's the difference in my opinion? It is what it is. It's data from a phone. It's a lot harder to dispute this. In fact, I've never heard anyone even really do it. The only room there is for dispute, in my opinion, from what we've learned from a lot of deep diving on it, is when it comes to the cell phone pings, there is a little bit of room to try to create a little bit of reasonable doubt, only because there's a radius, right? Remember we learned about the triangles? We're going to see this in Koberger. We're going to see it in Koberger. The triangle, right, of the radius around the cell phone, where there's a certain, I think it's 10 meters or something on each side, and they can be anywhere in that zone or whatever. That's the only wiggle room when it comes to the cell phone data that I know of. And we learned a lot of this in the Murdoch trial. But when it comes to the data from the phone, like what we're seeing here, which isn't cell phone pings, it's the data from like Knowledge C. Sometimes it could be the iPhone data. It's cloud data, stuff like that. It's just, there's no way to even fuck with it. I mean, it's real. It really is. I agree. It is really potentially the best evidence that we have, because it really is indisputable. So the fact that she, the audacity, right? It's like the audacity. The fact that she's trying to dispute that is really insane to me.
Ms. McCabe, the reason you deleted that 2:27 a.m. call is because you realized that if you were caught Googling how long it takes for a person to die in cold 3.5 hours before John's body was found, that would incriminate you, wouldn't it?
Objection.
I want to say, I just love Fender's comment here. I love this. Fender says, as a psychologist, she says, any story is believable if it's true in the mind of the speaker. Absolutely. Yep, I agree with that. She herself doesn't believe what she's saying, and that's why it feels dishonest. I love that. I think that's a really important distinction, because when we pick up on the dishonesty, it's when the person who's saying it doesn't believe. I agree. I think, thank you for pointing that out. That's really important thing to point out for sure. And I know that there's other people in the chat who that will really certainly resonate with too. Yeah, I know. Karen snuck into her room and Googled it in the middle of the night. Well, I'm being sarcastic here. As we know, they all leave their houses unlocked apparently, and have guard dogs that don't notice anything. So yeah, that's totally possible. Yeah. I know, right? Even Amber, no, for sure. That my thoughts for her on the stand yesterday was she's outdoing Amber Heard, she's outdoing Murdoch, she's outdoing everybody. Like dude, and again, she was super angry on the stand yesterday. I hope we get to see that again today. But I'm wondering again if somebody was like, hey, watch it, because you came across like you were gonna launch. I literally thought she was gonna launch from behind that witness stand a couple times and come for his throat. I'm not even really exaggerating. It was kind of scary.
The objection sustained.
Did you delete that search because you knew that you...
There we go.
Ms. McCabe, the reason you deleted that 2:27 a.m. call is because you realized that if you were caught Googling how long it takes for a person to die in the cold 3.5 hours before John's body was found, that would incriminate you, wouldn't it?
Objection.
The objection sustained.
Did you delete that search because you knew that you would be implicated in John O'Keefe's death if that search was found on your phone?
Objection.
Could you answer that, please?
I did not delete that search. I never made that search at 2:23. I never would have left John O'Keefe out in the cold to die because he was my friend that I loved.
Mad?
But
She's
he's
not
your family, is he?
grieving.
Family and friends.
Look at her jaw.
Objection.
Look at her jaw.
Sustained.
I'm gonna rewind it. Look at her jaw.
You acknowledge that you made this.
It's so funny. I can picture EDB is probably doing what I'm doing in the sense that she's like has to keep pausing it to say something because this is just too much, and then rewinding it and then apologizing. But you guys, you have to look at. Oh my God! Right, exactly. They referred to him as that guy. Fender, you haven't seen that yet, but that comes up with her husband. They are like, there's a text message that her husband sent to this group chat that was like, just tell them that the guy didn't ever come in the house. And that's how they refer to him, as the guy. And also that shows that they're planning a story, but whatever. Yeah, this is crazy. Watch her face and her jaw. And she's trying to act like it's grief this is so easily act like it's grief and she's upset, but really, if you look, and the jury is going to pick up on this, it's anger. She's angry at the attorney, and she's trying to make it, or she's trying to use words to say that she's actually upset or grieving over John O'Keefe's death. Let's watch again.
Sustained.
You acknowledge that you made the search at 6:23, don't you?
In the morning, I did, yes.
You acknowledge that you made the search at 6:24.
Multiple times in the morning, yes.
Of the 3 searches that show up that were all found on your phone, the one that you disavow
Yes, Fender.
is the one that took place at 2:27 a.m.
It's an actual
Which
text.
would
We're going to
implicate you
get to it tonight
and
and
exonerate
recap
my
tonight.
client, correct?
Objection.
Sustained. Can I ask it differently, Mr. Jackson?
Right.
Of those 3
Same,
searches,
same, Candace.
there's
Same.
only
Yeah.
one marked deleted. Isn't that right?
Correct.
That was the one at 2:27 a.m., correct?
I wouldn't even know how to go in and delete
I agree.
a
That's not what I
search.
asked you. The one according to the Celebrate report
Hold
that
on.
was deleted.
I think I didn't go
the
back
one
far
at
enough.
2:27
Hold on.
took place at 2:27 a.m.
Multiple times in the morning, yes.
Of the 3 searches that show up,
Multiple times.
Sorry.
Multiple times in the never made that search at 2:23. I never would have left John O'Keefe
Here.
out in the cold to die because he was my
Wow.
friend that I
Look.
loved.
You
but
guys,
he's not your family, is he?
that is let's look. Let me see if I can find the exact moment. This is some scary shit. Hold on. Let me see if I can. I'm gonna try to pause it at the moment that scares me.
Out in the cold to die.
I went. Hold on. I'm close.
Could you answer that, please?
I did not delete that search. I never made that
Wow.
search at
Here we
2:23.
go.
I never would have left John O'Keefe out in the cold to die.
Oh, it was right before that moment. Oh my God, y'all. Do you know what I mean though? The way she had her mouth, that is terrifying. Trying to see if I can get right on it.
Never made that search at 2:23. I never would have left John O'Keefe out in the cold to die.
There it is. I did it, you guys. I did it. This. Oh my God. If that looks like the look someone would give you before they stab you to death with a knife. All right. Am I right? Are you guys seeing what I'm seeing? That makes my hair stand up on the back of my arms and neck. And I didn't even have that response when I had a bear encounter. So that's saying a lot. Holy shit.
Die because he was my friend that I loved.
But he's not your family, is he?
Oh,
Family and friends.
Is he not
Objection.
Sustained.
You acknowledge that you made the search at 6:23, don't you?
oh my God.
In the morning, I did, yes.
You acknowledge
That
that you
to
made
me
the,
looks like she has an
search at
explosive temper.
6:24.
Because she's now kind of
Multiple
settled
times
back
in the
down.
morning, yes.
Of the 3 searches
That
that
makes her
show
even
up
more dangerous.
that were all
Actually.
found on your phone, the one that you disavow,
But we've just seen from that response how she was really angry and now she feels better. Do you guys see what I mean? That's actually terrifying because usually you would actually stay in that heightened emotion. Like she seems to feel better. Technically, she's a great candidate for a charge like second-degree murder, where it would be homicide, but for some sort of emotional precipitating event, such as losing one's temper, right? You feel me? See what I mean there?
is the one that took place
Oh.
at 2:27 a.m.
Y'all want to hear the bear story? I can tell the bear story again for Fender. The bear encounter story. Yeah, so like this was here in Greensboro. I know you probably can't picture what. Have you been to the US? I can't remember, Fender, if you've been to the US or not, but you know, Greensboro. So I lived out in the mountains in places where if one would have a bear encounter, you would expect it there. I lived out in the mountains of North Carolina for like 11 years where, yeah, Blue Ridge Parkway, Appalachian Trail type scenario, right? And then when I moved back to Greensboro in like 2017. And so then this was just last year, like last summer. I was driving on New Garden Road, which I believe I might have shown you guys on one of the live streams for doing Gloria Satterfield. I think we did a Google Maps field trip to see New Garden. I'm pretty sure we did. And I probably have it time-stamped. I'm trying to think. But yeah, we looked at the exact place where the bear encounter happened, where I'm driving on New Garden Road. It was like 7 in the evening. It was like sunny because it was summertime. And I was like listening to a trial, right? So not paying attention to my surroundings. And I was driving my black Prius, you know, and like this big, huge black bear the size of my car came sprinting out across the road, crossed the median, crossed the traffic, ran in front of a fire truck, and then ran in front of my car where if the fire truck, if it weren't for the fire truck being there and honking really loud, I wasn't paying attention because I was listening to a trial, and I would not have even noticed it. And I missed it by just like, I slammed on my brakes and I would have hit it. And so they laid on the horn. And then in my mind, I saw something moving, and it was like that weird thing where I'm like, oh, it must be a deer, but it's not a deer. But my brain couldn't process that it was not a deer because it's like, what else could it be? Like, it's like I saw a bear, but my brain couldn't be like, it's a bear because it can't be a bear, right? And it was huge, and it was running really fast. And so it literally was right in front of my car. I slammed on the brakes, and it kept running across and ran into this neighborhood. And then I was like, had to pull over, and I was like, what? It was crazy because like I'm in the city, right? Like this is the city. Bear, you don't belong here. Go back to your home, bear. And then the bear was in this neighborhood where all these families were out because of the nice weather, and they were walking their dogs, and the kids were playing in the front yard. So I had my window down. I'm looking for the bear. And in my mind, I'm like, here, bear, where are you, bear? And meanwhile, all these people are like waving at me. Hi. And I'm like, oh my God, they don't even know there's a bear amongst us. Like there's a bear in their neighborhood. I tried to find the bear, couldn't find the bear. And then for the very first time in my life, I called 911 just to be like, hey, like there's a bear. But that's the summary of the story. Okay. So Pennsylvania, that's kind of close to NC. So yeah, but that's a brief summary of the bear story. And what happened with the bear. So, but my point was like her face is scarier than that. That was the point.
Multiple times in the morning, yes.
Of the 3 searches that show up,
That sounds
that were
cute,
all
though.
found on your phone, the one that you disavow is the one that took
Right.
place
Exactly,
at
Fender.
2:27 a.m.
That's right.
which
That's
would
right.
implicate you and exonerate my client, correct?
Objection.
Sustained. Can I ask it differently, Mr. Jackson?
Of those 3 searches, there was only one marked deleted. Isn't that right?
Correct.
That was the one at 2:27 a.m.,
Yeah.
correct?
I wouldn't even know how to go in and delete a
That's not
search.
what I asked you.
No,
The one
stop.
according to the Celebrate
Ma'am.
report that was
Ma'am.
deleted, the one at 2:27 a.m., correct?
Correct.
You would agree that that's awfully convenient for you, isn't it?
Objection.
Actually, argumentative.
Sustained.
It is argumentative, but that's fine. The jury knows. He doesn't even need to say that, in my opinion. Jury knows. The jury gets it. They've been here the whole trial.
That's all I have, Your Honor. Thank you.
Okay, Mr. Lally?
Thank you.
Redirect. Interesting. Okay. What's he gonna do?
Yes,
Wow.
thank you.
What's he gonna do to try to save this? Wow. Good luck, Lolly. Yeah. Don't we have a bullshit command? I thought we had.
Good morning, ma'am.
Good morning.
Going back a little bit, you were asked some questions about Life 360 application that you had on your phone. Is that right?
Yes.
This is where he starts.
And you're familiar with that app and familiar with
Okay,
sort of,
hang on,
using
guys.
that app
I wanna
to
see
see where your
something.
children are at various times. Is that
I don't really care to listen to him.
Yes.
Well,
and from your
We will-
experience using that app, how
let me just mute it real quick. We will cover all of the lolliness whenever we go and do the recap. What I want to do is see if there's a recross, or if what ends up happening is somehow she's done. Leaves the stand, and they get to Carrie Roberts, because we don't really know much about her, if anything. Let's see if she's still on redirect here.
now
Okay,
growth in June of 2020.
still on redirect.
Yes.
And we will
Were you
cover this.
all being asked some
But I want to get to whatever is next, because I volley. Don't need to hear him twice on this, right?
getting together with
He's still going.
I know there was snow on them, but I've been complete lies about all of us. They send me
Oh, here we
Facebook messages.
Harassment.
They
now you did
Okay, let's see.
On January 29th,
Perfect. Recross.
Sergeant
We caught
White.
up to real time. Recross.
called him over to specifically give him a statement, correct?
correct.
Yeah.
Gave a statement the next day sorry, later that.
Actually, it's funny that you should say that, Fender, because Runkle has actually been making a joke that with this trial, Nightbot has had to work overtime, and he's been actually calling him Fightbot. And then everyone's like, justice for Nightbot. And I'm like, hell yeah, because, you know, Nightbot's my homie. Love Nightbot. Yeah. So there are, I think there's got to be, oh my God, sorry. There's got to be a command with bullshit involved. But just in case, let me just put this in the chat as well. There's a lot of commands. And so maybe I thought there was one with bullshit in it somewhere. But yeah, Nightbot. Oh, we love you, Nightbot. But yeah, now we're on recross.
Trooper
Now I
Proctor,
care.
correct?
Correct.
Yes, we can.
You were also met with, on that following Tuesday,
I have,
After 6 a.m. Why again?
Yes, voice.
because Miss Reed asked me to Google how long to die from hypothermia. She said, Google hypothermia, Google how long it takes to die in the cold. She was shaking me, screaming at me to do it.
Oh, so she was
And she's
forcing
shaking
you?
as
Is
you're
that what you're
typing,
trying
is
to
that
say?
correct?
Correct.
And
Fucking hell.
there were some misspellings, correct?
Correct. I also have MS
The
and I have issues.
misspellings are not the problem, Wally.
I have MS and I have, issues with my hands. So a lot of
sorry.
times Google and make,
Fender, I'm glad you made me rewind this because this is crazy. I don't think the jury is like, God, how are there so many misspellings and typos? That's crazy. You're joking me. That is not your biggest problem. What is happening?
errors, but the cold
Yeah,
also
it
makes
was
my hand
good.
go completely numb.
It was smart.
So I'm not surprised that that's how it would come out.
No one cares about the misspellings, dude.
When you
That's
went
not
into
your
the
problem.
bedroom sometime after 2 a.m., fair to say the defendant wasn't there shaking you when you were Google searching for ozone basketball or Hakamak?
objection.
Sustained.
Yeah, fucking hell.
One moment, John.
Yes.
I honestly don't know Fender. It's hard to read.
Nothing
Harder to
further.
read until she
Okay,
gets
Mr.
really
Jackson.
until she gets really angry, right?
Concerning
She's hard to read at night, but I'm also not good at reading.
statement,
It takes a lot. It takes a lot.
I hit him.
When she gets
Um,
angry, it's obvious. It's like she goes from 0 to angry like that.
You gave a statement
Contempt.
on January 29th
Anger.
to Sergeant Light. Called him over to specifically give him a statement, correct?
Correct.
Gave a statement the next day, later that day, Trooper Proctor,
Exactly.
correct?
Correct.
Exactly.
You were also met with, on that following Tuesday, with a trooper named Prince, correct?
Correct.
I don't recall him. I don't know.
And then you testified in April of 2022, no fewer than 12 times about statements that you attributed to Ms. Reed, correct?
Correct.
And in not one of those instances, not one, is there a report that says you said, she said, I hit him, correct?
Correct. Although I told Mike Lank.
Oh, we already know that the officers all got it wrong.
Objection, Your Honor.
Sustained as to
I
that.
don't even
Next
care.
question, please,
He
Mr.
deserves it.
Jackson.
Dude.
So you
I don't blame
indicate that you were, the harassment that you just described, this terrible harassment that you just described, started in about April 2023, correct?
Correct.
That was around the time that there were public hearings concerning this Google search. Is that right?
Objection.
Oh,
I'll allow that.
Is that right?
fuck no.
I'm not sure exactly
Fuck
when
no.
the Google search came
Yes.
out.
But you do know that you
Oh my
started.
God, sorry, I'm gonna run. Trooper, yes, trooper is state trooper. So you've got like your police, that's like a city, right? Then your state troopers, they have a larger region, and so they're a lot of times on the highways and stuff. So yeah, trooper is law enforcement, but yeah, correct. But they're state troopers. That dude, you guys, that's a WF moment. WF, I can't even talk. I'm so excited. WTF moment. Let me rewind that. Holy shit, though.
And as to that. Next question, please, Mr. Jackson.
Yeah.
So you indicate that you were, the harassment that you just described, this terrible harassment.
Yep, we have to remember that in certain cases, it's appropriate for them to lose their cool, right? Because that's a strategy. Or I mean, and in this case, I'm sure it's genuine and authentic, right? But it's to show passion. I think they want, rightfully so, the jury to be angry at her. They should be angry at her. I'm angry at her. I'm angry at a lot of these witnesses. They have done horrible things. They're lying on their asses off. they're relying on their privilege and the family name and the connections with law enforcement, just like the Murdoch family. You know, that it's a similar thing. It's all this privilege and whatnot and nonsense and lying and connections and it's just. But in this case, it's like it went way further because it's like to cover up a murder. And I mean, from what we understand, right? Like that's the defense's theory of the case. And that's what everything is pointing to. It's a lot. And so I think that it's like you know what I mean? It's like everyone has a right to be angry at her. She should feel like she's ganged up on in a way, like everyone is angry at her. I mean, and that's I think she brought it on herself. Like she's not a victim. And that's only adds to it, right? The fact she's trying to play the victim when she's not a victim, it's awful. And the jury knows that there's been no sympathy expressed by anybody, in this case for the actual victim who's deceased, including from the Commonwealth. The people who speak kindly about the victim and mention the victim's name and all that, it comes from the defense. And I brought this up before, but it's really unusual when you have a defendant who could easily throw their deceased boyfriend, spouse, whatever under the bus. We see it all the time. Common strategy. It's not happening. It's not. They're the ones who are actually celebrating his life and the fact that he was a well-respected and people really looked up to him, right? And people count and yet the prosecution just doesn't even like say his name. It's insane. But anyway, what I'm saying is like, it's just really hypocritical that, of course, now sympathy matters when it comes to her, but not for the victim. So
that you just described started in about April 2023, correct?
Correct.
It was around the time
exactly, Fender.
that there were public hearings concerning.
I got you. Fender. Yeah.
I'll allow that.
Is that right?
I'm not sure exactly when the Google search came out.
But you do know that you started suffering this harassment that you claimed is awful and terrible, etc., around April of 2023. Is that right?
I didn't claim it's awful. It is awful.
Okay.
That's not
sure
the point.
it is awful.
Oh my God.
I'm sure it's terrible.
It
I'm
is.
sure it sucks to be harassed.
It really does.
Yeah. I'm sure it does.
Objection, Your Honor.
Is
All
amazing.
right, so that's sustained and I'll strike it. Go ahead and ask
Look
a
at her
question.
face. Ooh.
You were upset by April of 2023 that there was public outrage about your family being involved in the death of John O'Keefe. That's what you were upset about, correct?
I was upset that we as witnesses were being harassed.
You know what's happening right now, besides all the things that are obvious? You know what I think is happening behind the scenes? She's opening the door with her answers. She's opening a door, I think.
You were upset about public outrage concerning this case.
Because
correct?
this stuff normally can't come in, you
Sustained,
guys.
that was answered. Next question.
She might be getting
2
it in.
months later, 2 months later, in June of 2023, for the first time, you testified at another proceeding, and lo and behold,
That would
you
be a federal grand
attributed
jury.
the words, "I hid him," to my client, right?
Objection.
So ask that without the objectionable phrase.
2 months later, at another proceeding in June of 2023, you attributed the statement, "I hit him," to my client for the first time under oath, correct?
Under oath, correct.
He said under oath. Don't repeat it like that's going to help you.
You indicated when you turned your phone in, the police were
That was a great pause by
perfectly okay with you deleting communications with your children, correct?
Correct.
Including
I'm going to point something
Allie,
out. I'm going to point something out. This is the great line of questioning. Here's why it's win-win for him. Because even if she says, yeah, correct, the police were fine with me deleting it, it makes the law enforcement look bad. And we already know this was a shitty, fake ass investigation or whatever, right? But if she says no, then she looks bad. So it's win-win for them. And it matters because Allie McCabe, again, is all up in this, and it still remains to be seen. I think the defense is going to recall both her and Colin if they get to their case in chief. Like it's so crazy. Her deleting texts from her children is not normal. It's not like just deleting texts from your kids. It's like your kid, I'm putting kid in like air quotes, who was actually like a senior in high school at the time or whatever, drove Colin Albert to and from the scene of this at the time and is like all up in this. And she's, it's like part of what could be going on here is the parents could be covering for their kids because the kids aren't kids. They're 17, 18. Some kids that are involved here are in their 20s. They're older, right? Parents could be covering, or the kids could be covering for the parents, or they could all be covering, and we don't really know yet. But my point is this: these aren't just any text messages from kids. This is a completely different situation, and she knows that. She knows that.
Material witness in this trial.
Good point.
Objection.
Right, a material
So
witness.
part of that is objectionable, and I'll sustain that. So
You're aware that your daughter, Allie, was a witness in this case.
Yeah.
At the time, I was not aware of that, no.
No, but you did know that ultimately she was going to indicate that she drove Colin home, right? You knew that at the time.
Objection.
that's sustained.
Oh,
Did you know at the
do they
time
think she did drive her
that they
home?
had driven
That would
Colin
be
home, or
interesting.
She said she drove him home.
Oh my God! Yes,
I had no idea she drove him
yes,
home.
Bender.
But
All
you
of the
deleted all those communications.
all of the adults that have testified, I know you haven't seen everybody, but all the people who've testified, all of them also have kids that also were involved. And again, kids, I say, is a range 17 into early 20s, basically, the youngest being 17. This is the first time, you guys, this is new. This is the first time we are hearing this. It sounds like the defense doesn't think that Allie drove him home. I wonder who they think did. Do they think it was Brian Higgins? That's news. Wow.
With Allie, didn't you?
Objection.
Sustained.
Did you delete all the communications that you had off your phone with Allie, your daughter?
Right. Bender.
Objection.
So this has already been answered, but go ahead, finish. Let's finish this loop. Did you delete them?
I deleted the conversations with my 4 daughters. At that time, Allie was not a
Being
witness.
angry again, guys.
All I asked you, you heard my question. Did you or did you not delete the communications with Allie McCabe?
Objection.
Yeah, I could
That's
tell all
been
I was,
answered.
I could tell all I was going to object. Lied.
You said that there was this statement that horrified you, your words, horrified you, that
Oh yeah. This is important.
Carrie Roberts
This is important. I forgot about this part.
during her interview, that you were eavesdropping,
Wow.
right?
I'm not sure if she made it during that interview. I'd have to look back.
Whatever this is, if he's closing with this must be really big, because bigger than even maybe the how long to take. So this is big from yesterday, right? This was referenced, but we were not able to get into it. It must be that he has built the foundation, laid the foundation here to get into it. Interesting. Let's see what happens. Wow.
To see when I said she told them everything in bold, because I know she had said it to me multiple times. So I'm not sure if it's when she said it in the interview or just in general.
It's
When
not
she
as-
said, I told them everything. I told them,
It's not as
etc.
it's not
So
quite
what you said in that
terrifying
group
yet.
chat,
But I think it might
she's
get
telling
there.
them everything. That might not even be what you're talking about.
No, it was.
And you said that horrified you, correct?
I didn't know Carrie Roberts. So yes, her statement horrified me.
Horrified you.
Yes, that was horrifying.
And in that group chat, your response to that horrifying statement was 3 words. I love it.
Was there a response prior to that?
What? You tell me, ma'am. I'm not the one under oath. You are.
Well, if you want to show me it again, I'd love to.
Oh
get it.
fuck, she's
So-
gonna get mad. Her
Do you
face-
have it handy, Mr. Jackson?
I don't, Your Honor, I'll grab it.
Get it. Get it.
Okay. Your Honor, it's been marked and entered. It was the packet this morning that I did. That's it. May I approach?
Sure.
And he's gonna approach. While he's approaching, I'm gonna refill my coffee. You're back.
Mayor,
Yes.
Okay, guys, I'm back. You're approaching. Let me see if I can go.
take a look at those 2 pages. if you would.
Could you tell me what pages?
Yeah,
please?
we don't.
69 and
I don't know
second-
yet. So we haven't, these have not come in yet, Fender. These messages have not come in. They've only been referenced. So we're about to see what the context is. Because I don't know. We've been waiting for this since yesterday. This was first brought up yesterday, and we were like, what?
Page, Ms. McCabe, if you wouldn't mind.
Well, this is a big moment.
What's the
here.
second number, Ms.
Whatever it
McCabe?
is, it must be
Bottom right.
bad.
2170.
Thank you.
Oh man. We're gonna learn together. Nobody knows what this is. I mean, except for her and the attorneys, I guess.
You have that in mind?
Yes, I do.
Ma'am?
Oh my
Your
god.
Honor?
Are they gonna publish it? Publish it.
During that conversation, when you said she's telling them everything, that came right on the heels of your husband saying, this girl could write a book, or this woman could write a book or something like that, correct?
Correct. She talks nonstop.
Right. And then you said 2 texts down, she's telling them everything.
Correct.
The text just before that was, I love it.
That was in response to my husband saying this girl could write a book.
What's the next
Oh, you're
thing
joking me.
you wrote that group within a second of that?
She is telling them everything.
Right.
See you next Tuesday, words
Sure.
in my brain. She was trying to say, lie. Wow, really, ma'am? She was trying to say that her saying I love it was in response to she could write a book. No. She's telling them everything. Boy, she really lied. The way she lied about this yesterday, pisses me off. It pisses me off.
Nowhere in that text chain did you say
Correct.
something along the lines of, oh my goodness, I'm so horrified, did you?
Those were on phone conversations.
Nowhere in those texts
Yeah, right.
that you just saw did you say the words or write the words.
Like, oh, you
I'm so
said it.
horrified.
That makes it true, not.
No, because it was already spoken about.
I hate her.
You were asked on that morning, January 29th, 2022, as you drove to the location and ultimately to 34 Fairview. What ultimately happened? And your testimony was, as you approached, my client was searching frantically for John O'Keefe, correct?
I don't believe I said she was searching frantically for John O'Keefe.
Searching frantically,
She was screaming frantically in the back seat and texting in the back seat.
Was she just sitting there curled up in the back seat, sucking her thumb, or was she searching out the window?
She was screaming
Right.
between Carrie and I. So I'm not really sure how she saw John over here when her head is up here screaming and then looking down and texting.
Was the whole point of that trip, Miss McCabe, to search for John?
It was because she knew where he was.
The whole point of that trip was to look for him, correct?
She directed us to go to 34
No.
Fairview.
The whole point of the trip
Oh my
was
god.
to look for John,
At
correct?
34 Fairview, where Karen said to go.
And your testimony is that if it hadn't been for Karen jumping out of that truck,
I have to point something out.
you would have stopped, correct?
Because I wouldn't have
I'm
seen.
going to rewind that line of questioning real quick. I had to point something out. Remember, I wonder if anyone else is going to notice this. I'm noticing it. And here's the benefit. Because of the fact that I'm doing these recaps and the recaps are a little bit behind the regular trial, the recap video that we just have been watching and that we're going to finish watching it tonight is with her husband, right? As y'all know, it's her husband. I have it fresh in my mind because I heard it just like this morning that her husband, remember, actually, we already watched it. It was the part where he was like looking out the blinds again, but at their house. And he was talking about that morning. Remember, he actually said that when Karen called them and woke them up or whatever, screaming, she was like, I don't know what happened. And then they said to her, according to the husband, her husband, they said, but Karen, what do you mean you don't know where he is? You were there. You guys were both there at the house last night. And then Karen said, I don't remember. So if anything, if that's one of them is lying, if what he said is true, what it means is they suggested her and her husband suggested, oh, her mouth is doing that thing again, isn't it? They are the ones that suggested to Karen that John might be there because Karen didn't remember. I just wanted to point that out so we can appreciate the bullshit and the level of fuckery. I just rounded a smidgen.
What?
What was the direct
Oh my
question?
goodness.
Stated like that, I believe there was, because I wouldn't have seen him. I didn't know he was.
Go back.
To look for him, correct?
She directed over here when her head is up here
Here we go.
screaming
Okay.
and then
Here we
looking
were.
down and
Here we were.
texting.
Was the whole point of that trip, Miss McCabe, to search for John?
It was because she knew where he was.
The whole point of that
Oh,
trip
she's mad. She's
was
mad.
to
She's
look
mad.
for him, correct?
She directed us to go to 34
No.
Fairview.
No,
The whole
that
point
was
of the
my point.
trip
She
was to
directed
look
Karen to go there.
for
That's my
John,
point.
At
correct?
34 Fairview, where Karen said to go.
And your testimony is that if it hadn't been for Karen jumping out of that truck,
Fender real quick. So what happened was Karen, they had all been out together, this whole group, including Karen and John, and Karen was driving her vehicle. What happened, well, best we could tell, was when they went to the house for this after party, Karen wanted to go home and like go to sleep. So she dropped him off and then went home. And then what happened was she woke up and she doesn't know where he is. And then that's what she calls her friends and doesn't know where John is. And then they suggest to Karen, well, we just saw you guys were at the house. And she's like, well, I don't remember that happening. But they suggested it to Karen. According to Matt McCabe's testimony, they were the ones that were like, oh, this is where he was at. So yeah, hopefully that makes sense. But it wasn't nefarious that she left. It was like he wanted to stay there and continue to have like the after party and she wanted to go home. There was no altercation that we know of.
Because I wouldn't have seen him. I didn't know he was
Yes
there.
or no?
She did.
Yes or no? Was that your statement? If she hadn't gotten out of the car, you wouldn't have stopped.
I don't believe it was stated like that. I believe there was a question and I answered.
And the question
And it was
was,
late,
would
Fender.
you have stopped? And your answer was what?
What was the direct question?
Oh my goodness, Miss McCabe. It was 5 minutes ago.
Did he ask, did
Yeah,
you
she
see
did.
something? You like to change words. I just want to be certain.
What?
So, Mr.
Oh.
Jackson, just keep it to questions, not comments.
You were asked just a second ago by Mr. Lally, if Karen Reed hadn't jumped out of the car, you wouldn't have stopped, correct?
Correct.
Thank you. That's all I have.
Okay. All right, Ms. McCabe, we are finished. Jurors.
Okay, I wonder if they're going to take a break or are they going to go right
We'll
into
take a
very
recess. And
their recess?
this
Okay,
one might be a
let's
little
see.
longer. I may need to.
Damn it, they're still on recess. Okay, all right. Well, that's where I'm going to call it. I really want to do Carrie. My guess is Carrie might be on direct maybe the rest of the day because we know that Lolly said Carrie Roberts is next. Of course, cross is where we actually learn the most with these witnesses. And in terms of the live trial, of course, with the recaps, we can really break it down. And that's as we've been doing. So what I'm going to do now, there's the only fan. Hold on. Let me get my thing. Let me get my thing. Let me get my thing. Why is my mouse? Where's my mouse? Oh, here it is. Okay. So hold on. There we go. Shout out to the fan. So here's the thing. Okay. So I'm going to call it now for this because what I'm going to do is I've got lessons, but also I'm going to finish prepping the recap for tonight. So tonight we will be finishing all of Matt McCabe's cross redirect, all of his testimony from Friday. And then we will also, I'm not sure if we'll finish it, but we will at least start, if not finish, Jen McCabe's direct examination from Friday. So we'll go through all that as well, all her testimony on direct, or at least as much as we can. That'll be the plan for tonight. And I believe I'm going to do 8 o'clock for that. So I still have to do timestamps for the past 3 live streams now. It's pretty crazy. We've been doing a lot of streaming. I kind of have just stopped all the other stuff for this. And tomorrow, that reminds me, tomorrow there's a live Koberger BK hearing for that. It's only for one witness, but they said it was initially going to be closed to the public and now it's open. I would imagine it'll probably be something that I cover later that night or something like that, right? Like not at the time because it will be going on during this trial. So anyway, I will keep you guys posted. This has been a whirlwind. What a day. Because I think, what did we start? We started at 7 this morning or so. with the pre-trial pre-game after doing already a couple hours last night, maybe. And then we'll have another one tonight. So it's a lot, but I thank everybody who's here, and I love that y'all here who are live and replay crew. Fender's going to go figure out dinner. That sounds fun / dinnery. Where is my mouse? My mouse keeps going over the other screen. It was fun hanging out with you. I'm so glad to see you again, Fender. Hopefully we'll have some more where you can visit us from India with the time zone. Hi, Black Witter, Best Witter. Just saying hi. Love you. Thank you, Candace. Thank you, guys. Thank you, all my friends here. And as always, thank you guys for being a squirrel. And I'll go ahead and roll the outro. See you guys hopefully tonight.